Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel and welcome to another video. Today we're going to be walking around the brand new BMW X3M Competition. I want to say a big shout out and thanks to the Berry BMW group for letting me come down here after hours and film this X3M. Also a big thanks and shout out to Mr. Tony Lewis.
Hi everyone.
For those of you that don't follow Tony on Instagram, the link will be below in the description. And obviously if you're looking at buying a new BMW, please drop him a line first because he'll be happy to give you a quote and hopefully get a quote you're happy. Before we start, I just want to say that unlike a lot of the rest of the world, the UK will only get the X3M competition and not the regular X3M. So this one is 510 PS, I believe.
Yep, 510, yeah. Compared to 480 for the standard X3, which is going to be on in Europe.
Yep.
But the UK market just decided to launch just with competition model, 510 horsepower, 600 Newton meters of torque.
Wow.
And 0 to 60 time at 4.1 seconds. For something as big as this, it's just...
It's ludicrous.
Mind-blowing.
And 4.1 seconds, as we know, if that's a BMW figure, it's very conservative. So we're probably looking at something around 4 dead or maybe sub 4 in the right conditions.
Yeah.
As some of you long-termers might know, I'm a massive fan of the X3M 40i. I think for the money and the value, that car is just awesome. And I know you've sold quite a few over the last, what, year or so?
Yeah. I even put my own money into one, if you remember early on, because we both were blown away with that on the test drive.
Yeah.
It was just like unbelievable. I'm not really an SUV type person, but when that came out and we both drove it and it was cracking and banging and popping away with a B58, it was like, I've got to have one of these. So,
it was just naughty, wasn't it?
Yeah, it really was.
And I think, I talked about this recently in my Stelvio Quadrifoglio video, that manufacturers, the good manufacturers, are actually somehow defying physics and making SUVs now actually sporty. They might be called sports SUVs, but they are actually sporty now. And if the X3M 40i is anything to go by, and this is clearly going to be a step above it, I can't wait to sort of get behind.
Let's go.
Yeah, let's go. On that note, actually, I'm getting a BMW UK press car, X3M Competition, in about 2 weeks' time. So I will be doing a driving impression and obviously a full review with that car once I get it. But I thought it would be really nice and helpful to sort of have a nice walk around a static vehicle and look at pricing, look at options, and just look at what the car's all about really, compared to say your normal X3 or even your X3 M40i. You've got a more aggressive front end to the regular X3 and the X3 M40i. You've got sort of telltale signs like the little side gills there that have got X3 written on it. And obviously there's a number of X3M competition badges or M badges around the car itself. We've got unique, what are they, 21 inch?
21 inch, yeah.
21 inch wheels, which actually don't look, gives you an idea of how big the car is. In black it's kind of shrunk on the camera at least, but if you think they're 21 inch wheels, as we talked about off camera, especially in this diffused sort of showroom light, the black never really shows off the angles of cars. I mean, I say that, and the M2 and stuff, I think it does, but on this one it definitely doesn't. It's a stealth machine in black, so there's two arguments as to what you'd have. In terms of pricing, this one, it retails on the road at just under 78 base.
Yep, 78. This one's got quite a few extras on it, which we'll run through, which takes the price of this one up to about 83,000.
Okay.
Car's about £22,000 more than the X3M 40i.
Sure.
Which we were just discussing, sounds like a lot on face value, but then when you start to sit down and look at things like, M head-up display, the M buttons, the merino leather, etc. There's a lot of stuff that's on there that you probably have to add on to the X3M 40i. Not that it's available, some of it as an option, so it does feel that bit more special because of it.
Sure, and you've got to remember that this, just like with an M140 or let's say an M240 and an M2 competition, you've got to remember that this is the real deal. This is a proper M car. I mean, the main talking point of this car for a lot of us is going to be the S58 engine that's under the bonnet. So it's the M-derived engine of the B58 that's been in 140s, 240s, 340s, etc., which was already an epic engine, as we know, and very tunable. And finally, the M division have got their hands on this, and there's all sorts of trickery going on with the engine.
Yeah. I mean, you know, when we consider the horsepower output, it sounds quite high.
Yeah.
That's like almost the starting point. We know there's a slightly lower powered version on the Continent, but when you think what the tuning capability of this engine is, that's talking 700 horsepower plus, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So in this, it's going to be just, you know, an unstressed engine that just looks and works and does the job.
Yeah.
And it's barely ticking over.
Yeah,
you know, it's just, and it's 510 horsepower. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
I know. Which is like, we talk about 500 horsepower, a bit blasé these days. Like, you know, this, what's the M5 competition? That's 610 or something. Yeah. Over 500 horsepower in an X3 is going to feel really rapid because of the momentum, the size of it, the weight of it, and the fact that the X3 M40i feels fast, and that's just 380.
Yeah. I remember us saying on the first video, like, how would it need any more power?
Any more power, yeah.
Because we were talking about this then, and it was like, when it comes out, it's going to be ridiculous. But now it's here, it's like, yeah, thank you very much. That's just what we need. You know, it's brilliant.
Yeah, an extra 25 or 30% horsepower. I don't know what it works out to be. Massive brakes, M Performance brakes, sitting behind the massive wheels themselves. We'll walk around the back quickly and have a look what's going on around here. So beautiful lights, I'm guessing, are they OLED or LEDs?
No, just LED.
Just LEDs.
Regular LED.
They look really good. And again, talking about colours, the LED lights, rear lights, especially when they're darker, they look so good on the black. There's the badge. It's quite a stealth badge. I might even consider keeping that on if it was my car. It's that stealth.
It's lost on the black, isn't it? So,
it is lost in the black, yeah.
On a lighter car, it's going to stand out.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we'll open the boot. So you've obviously got all your normal practicalities of an X3 with this. You're not losing anything. You've got some, oh, lovely. Oh, that's really handy. Yeah. Put all your valuables and stuff in there.
Mobility kit.
Mobility kit, yeah. Nice sort of storage, and obviously the seats folded down. You've got loads of room in there. And this has got the 40-20-40 split. Oh, there you go. Look at that. As if by magic. Really nice. And you've probably seen the clip of me climbing in the other X3M 40i. No, go on Tony, get in there. But yeah, plenty of room basically, really loads of room, probably, I don't know, 6 foot between the boot lid and the back of the seats there. So you can load these up with whatever you want, and even with the seats up, obviously as a family car, you've got a lovely big load area. So we'll just close that now. And actually, while we're around the back here, we'll just talk about the exhaust. So this has actually got the M Performance exhaust as standard.
Yep, on the competition model.
Yep. Right. So the only model that we get in the UK gets the M Performance exhaust. I will do a bit of a cold start and a bit of a rev test in here, but we're very limited. Car's not running. We're in a showroom. You'll hear more about the sound once we're on the move. And I've heard from reliable sources that actually, when you're on the move, the car sounds a lot better when it's under load and stuff. So I look forward to sort of, I look very forward to driving one of these. Tony, should we open the cab and have a quick look inside? Right, okay. That ding dong is because I've got the side lights on. As you can see, we've got the two-tone leather. It's not a standard option, but it's 800-ish quid.
Yeah, £800. This is the only leather upgrade actually on this model. So merino leather is standard on the X3M competition. But this one's also got an Alcantara and two-tone affair, so that's why they're charging the £800 extra. So okay, just a way of individualising the car, making it a little bit different to the norm.
Yep.
But it works really well with the black, to be fair. It looks really, really stunning.
It does look good. And the only other one that I've seen, which is the Donington grey one, it also had the two-tone, and I think it looks really special. These beautiful seats, which are just, I don't know how to describe them. They're very similar to the M5 competition.
Yeah, this seems to be the new sort of generation sports seat now that we're seeing filter through. And, and that design of seat is going to filter down through the range as time goes on. But our seats were never bad. BMW seats were never a problem. But they just seem to have gone to the next level at the moment, don't they?
They have, and actually they've got something right with these ones where they didn't with the M2 competition. Yeah. And I've talked about it in a lot of my videos. They've gone for some Alcantara, but they've actually put it on the inside of the seat instead of the outside of the seat, which on the M2 competition, yeah, it looks great, but actually offers you no support. This one, not only have you got the merino leather, which is softer and more supportive, but you've also got the Alcantara. So I can imagine these seats probably offer about 30-40% more support than the ones in my M2 Competition. So well done BMW for putting the Alcantara in the right place on these seats. But really, even like finishing touches, in fact, down here, these are all Alcantara. So it's really nice in here. It's a beautiful cabin. You've actually got the iDrive 6 in here, so not the new operating system 7. I'm sure that's due very soon. We've got full digital dials, and we've got the new M steering wheel that you'll find in cars like the M5 and the new M8. So you've got the buttons at the top, the M buttons here and here that you preset with all your favorite M buttons. We've got the 8-speed gearbox, so there's no M DCT in here, and as I've talked about in a lot of my M5 videos, it suits the car very well. And actually, in reality, although the DCT is very fast and snappy, the brilliant 8-speed box just does everything really better, and it's certainly a much better automatic box. So this, when you're using this car normally, would just be a much easier sort of proposition to live with in terms of nice smooth gear shifts. In terms of other options that this particular car has got fitted, and something that I always go on about that you normally wouldn't opt for on an M car, but in cars like this, the panoramic roof is just a must for me. I mean, it's, what is it, £1,800 ish?
No, £1,200.
1,200.
But the beauty is, of course, you're not losing the carbon fibre roof that you would, as you said, on normal M cars.
Yes.
Go, well, no sunroof, you don't want to lose the carbon roof, but with this,
yeah,
that's a pretty much no-brainer, and probably one that's going to be opted for, I'd say, by just about everybody.
Yeah, and it just opens up the interior, and that way you can have a darker interior because you've got, you know, lots of light coming in, and it just makes the car less depressing through the winter months. It's just a much nicer, and it makes it feel bigger in there as well. It really does. I'm going to jump in the driver's seat because that is my driving position, because I was sitting there a minute ago. So do you want to just film me getting in? So this is me, very comfortable driving position. In fact, while I'm here, why not fire it up? Remember, it's a cold start, it's not been running, blah 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 blah. But anyway. So, do you want to bring this in here a second, Tony? We've got all our M buttons down here. In fact, we've got an exhaust button as well. This has got the park assist, so we've got all the parking buttons and stuff. But I've got the ferocity things on the gear knob, and actually the way this works, they've made the new gear lever work like the old DCT, if that makes sense. So it's not the traditional ZF 8-speed lever. So if you jump out of, say, an M140 with an 8-speed box, you would initially be a bit confused, as I was in here, because it's not traditional, if that makes sense. Does that make sense, Tony?
I couldn't hear a word of that over the exhaust. What was that about the gearbox? No, absolutely.
Yeah. So what I'll do is I'll put it into its. In fact, you can hear. So that's efficient there. That's sport. And that's Sport Plus. So there's 3 different levels.
And if you look very closely now, sorry.
Hey. I told him to behave himself, he just hasn't. So, Tony, do you want to go around the back and we'll just give it a quick rev test?
Yeah.
So it sounds pretty good. Sounds never come across that well on camera with my mics especially, but it sounds pretty meaty. The pickup is just instantaneous, like it's unbelievable. It's really, but I just can't wait to see what that's like.
That's the point. BMW are making a big song and dance about the fact that it's a real high revving engine. You know, this isn't your typical turbocharged, power comes in, drops off.
No.
You know, this literally will, just like the M2 Competition, rev right out to the red line.
And I think that's, those of you that are familiar with the B58, on a standard tune, what you do find is it gets to about 4,500 revs, and then it seems to not drop away, but just you can feel it plateauing. And people that have tuned them, that's where you gain. And I think obviously that's what they've done with this engine. I reckon between 5,000 and 7,000 is where all the magic happens. But yeah, it's super comfortable in here. It's really nice. And looking around, it's just, there's lots of details, lots of things going on, but not in a messy way, in a nice way. It feels really special in here. And these seats, as Tony said earlier on, BMW have always made good seats, but these are just super comfortable, super firm, but just like a good bed on a long journey. I can imagine these are just going to be really, really nice. I love them.
And one of the difficulties we normally face with these is of course trying to get the original car to feel more premium when you go to an M car.
Yep.
And I honestly think they've done a really good job of this. I mean, certainly you've got the smell of the merino leather, which is one thing, so it smells like a quality leather interior.
It does.
But the feel of the steering wheel and the dashboard and the finish,
it
is, they've literally lifted it up, which when you think where it's starting with the humble basics of the normal X3, which is no bad thing. But I always worry that, you know, when you bring a new car out, how can you make it feel that much more special when you're demanding that much more premium for the engine? And they've really have done it with this. And
that is something that people do question. Even things like the my M2 Competition, you know, people are like, oh yeah, but it's 50 something grand for a 2 Series. But when you get in there, the reality is they've lifted things up. But with this, like Tony said, you get in here and it smells expensive, whereas you can get in a base X3 and it smells a bit of leather, but a bit of plastic, and as you'd expect. But this thing actually, this smells like an M5, which doesn't surprise me because it's the same leather. Right, let's get a Tony in the back now, or should we let's get me in the back to make it fair. Just to remind you guys, I am 6'3".
I was going to say, and I'm only. Where are you? Oh, you're up there. And I'm only 4'6", so there's no point sticking me in the back.
No, there's not.
I actually had a customer come in here the other day, and he said, "Oh, you're actually quite tall." And I realised what he meant was, on camera next to Joe, I look like a dwarf.
Yeah. I do feel sorry for people next to me on camera.
So how's that for leg room?
Well, it's really good. As I say, that's me really comfortable in the front. So you've got to remember, how often do you have a 6'4" person in the front and in the back? But if you did, i.e. me now, like I've got just enough legroom to be comfortable, but most importantly, and something I always suffer from, is headroom. I'm sitting absolutely upright now, and thankfully, what's that?
Was that your neck?
That was my neck, yeah. Thankfully, BMW, unlike Audi, who don't, for some reason, make headrests or seats that support giants like me, I've actually got a headrest that is sitting behind my head, so if we did get rear-ended, my neck would not sound like you just heard. It would be supported. So that's lovely in here. We've got a 3-bench system, but I can't, you know, you're not going to get 3 adults in here in absolute comfort, but you could get 3 adults in here. Transmission tunnel is actually quite small, so you could certainly get 2 adults and a child in the middle here, no problem. But really lovely back here. In fact, I'll take that camera off you and just show everyone what I'm looking at. You just got a really nice cabin, but most importantly, you've got this lovely open roof. And again, I can't stress enough having that in a car, especially for the backseat passengers. It just opens everything up and it's really nice in here. But it's lovely back here. The two-tone leather extends to back here. The door cards themselves look great. I've actually got my own heated seat buttons and my own 4-zone climate control in the back here, which is all digital now. So really nice. And yeah, it's just a really lovely place to sit and a lovely place to be. So fair play to BMW for making yet another very interesting car, and something that I'm literally frothing at the mouth to drive, because I wouldn't have 10 years ago, 5 years ago, I wouldn't be that excited about driving a fast SUV, but I know how good some of the good ones are now. And this one, we've waited a while for this one, and just going off the back of what the X3 M40i feels like, even when you're pushing it, the likes of Petrolhead Pete from Petrolhead Tours, he went out and bought one off you, an X3 M40i.
Thanks,
and he's had that for what, is it about a year now?
Yeah, he has. It will be, yeah.
And he loves that car. Yeah. And Pete, if Pete loves something, Pete's the sort of guy that likes lightweight sports cars, you know, that sort of talk to him. And therefore you wouldn't think he would get excited about an SUV, but he absolutely loves his SUV. So yeah, maybe I need to get him out on the X3M. Yes. Pete, you heard it here first. But there you go. Right, I think we're going to sign off now. Anything else to add, Tony?
Obviously, this car is for sale. No, it's not a sales pitch. It's not a sales pitch. You know where I am if you need me. If it's BMWs, come and talk to me.
Yes.
New cars. More than happy to help.
Absolutely.
But please do know I don't work in the showroom. A lot of people come down to the showroom to say hello. I'm hardly ever here because I'm only here when we're doing the actual collections. So always contact me by email. Be glad to talk to anyone. Yeah, so make sure the Tony's details will be down below in the description. But yeah, never be afraid. And also a lot of people ask me, a lot of people
say to me online, they're always like, oh, well, I live, I don't know, in the Midlands, or I live here, so there's no point. But most, I reckon 50% of your customers are from all over the country, right?
Yeah,
like, they're not, clearly he doesn't just have all of his customers within 10 miles of the showroom. So
that's the beauty of being next to Heathrow. You can just fly in, we collect you, you know, we put you up in a local hotel if you come a long way, and then you collect your car the next morning all lovely and fresh. And the good thing is you've run it in by the time you get home.
So,
it's a win-win.
Yeah, exactly. And I've done that before. I collected a Porsche Boxer with my ex from Porsche Glasgow, and we drove it all the way down over a couple of days, and it was one of the best drives we ever had in that car, in fact. So it was the whole experience. So anyway, enough of blabbering on. Keep an eye out for the full review, etc. when I get this car. Follow me on Instagram as well, because I'll be doing loads of Instagram stories when I've got that particular car at the end of August. But yeah, thanks a lot for watching, guys. Please give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed this, and leave any comments, questions below, and remember to drop Tony a line for any BMW quotes. And thanks a lot to Berry again. Brilliant. Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate it.